Alright, hello, and welcome to my first ever Frosthaven digital video. I'm really excited for this. I've been waiting for a very long time. And unfortunately, this is not a video for my regular subscribers, so you can all go ahead and click off now. This is a video intended for people brand new to Frosthaven Digital and Frosthaven, the game in general. I just want to say, before we get started, that I'm not associated with the production in this game in any way. I don't have any insider knowledge or anything like that. I just have thousands of hours of experience with the Frosthaven board game, and a couple more thousands of hours with the predecessor to this game, Gloomhaven Digital. So with that, hopefully, I can help onboard some new people, because this is a really deep and complicated and complex and fun game, but there is a lot that you need to know before you can get started on it. Now, I'm recording this on the demo version in July. We do not have a release date for the full game yet, so anything here, especially user interface-wise, is subject to change, but for the most part, the base rules of the game are set in stone, and they will be exactly as I'm teaching in this video. So let's dive on in. This is a digital adaptation of the board game Frosthaven, which is a turn-based adventure-style dungeon-crawling card game. A lot of words there. Basically, we go off on missions, we slay a bunch of monsters, we pick up their loot, we bring it back to town, and we use that loot to rebuild the town, which we currently find on fire in the introduction here. So we're going to have to figure out who did that and maybe get some revenge. We will begin by starting a new campaign, and we're immediately greeted with the option to dive right on in or go through the tutorial. Hopefully, I'm going to go over everything well enough here that you won't necessarily need the tutorial, but it's not a bad idea to go through it for some supplemental reinforcement of the knowledge. But we will just go straight into the campaign, and we are greeted with our difficulty options. The difficulty that we pick here will not be set in stone. We will have the option to change it in between levels in the future, but I recommend starting on a lower difficulty and then bumping it up if you're having an easy time. You do get slightly better experience and gold rewards for playing on harder difficulties, but for the most part, you just want the levels to be hard enough that you win almost every single time, but you get near the end of a level and you don't know if you're going to win or not. I generally don't recommend this story mode as it does away with the exhaustion mechanic that's really built into the game, but standard is a very good place for most people to start, and if you've never played the game before, you could try veteran. I would recommend standard, and then you can bump the difficulty up from there. With the full release, I'm at least fairly certain that there will be 2 more difficulties on top of this. Maybe something like brutal and then unfair. Do not pick those harder difficulties. Feel free to start on standard, especially if you're new. You can always increase the difficulty later. And we move straight on into character creation. So unfortunately in the demo, we only have access to 4 of the 6 starting characters, but we'll go through them quickly. I'll go more in depth on them in the future. But for now, we have the Banner Spear and the Drifter. These are both tankier classes that they can do their damage either melee or from some range. We have the Bone Shaper, which is a summoning-based class that brings a whole bunch of skeletons into the battle that will run off and do the attacking for them. And we have the Deathwalker, who makes these shadows that kind of act as portals that they can teleport to or attack monsters through the shadows. It can be a very creative and interesting class. We'll just go ahead and make these top 2 characters and get going. You do need at least 2 characters to go into any scenario, so if you're playing solo, you'll have to pilot 2, or if you're playing multiplayer, then 2 to 4. As soon as you name yourself, you have to select a personal quest. So this is kind of like a secondary objective that each individual mercenary is going to have, and once they have achieved that personal quest, they will retire, and you can't play them anymore, but they'll unlock a new building that you can build in the town of Frosthaven, and you get extra goodies to go along with it. So the specific goals themselves don't really matter here, but experience the construction of 12 different buildings or collect 5 different herbs through loot tokens. So you just want to kind of have that in the back of your mind that you always want to be trying to progress your personal quest if you can. Don't worry about items that we pick here. I will go more in depth on specific characters on which items you should get. Then we have our Bone Shaper. We'll just grab this first personal quest. It doesn't matter for right now. And we're ready to start level 1. Before we begin the scenario, we do get a little bit of information on it. We can see that in this level, we will be facing Algok's guards, archers, priests, and elite archers. And we can see the various things that will be in the loot pool here. So when a monster dies, they will drop a money bag. When you pick up that money bag, it will have one of these items in it: gold, wood, metal, hide, rockroot, or snow thistle. Then we can also edit our characters a little bit. Every character has a set number of cards that they can bring into each scenario. The Banner Spears is 10, and every class also starts with 3 cards more than their set number. So you have a couple of choices that you can make, like bringing Driving Inspiration here instead of Javelin. For now, we don't need to worry about which cards do what. We'll just go ahead and get into the level and see what happens. But before we can begin quest, we have to pick a battle goal. So every character has 3 different battle goals, and they have other secondary, third, tertiary objectives you can go for, like killing 3 or fewer enemies, or killing an enemy that has 2 or more negative conditions on it. Achieving these battle goals is not required. This is purely a secondary objective that you can go for, but it will help make your character stronger over time if you can achieve them. So you want to keep it in the back of your head, and it will be over on the side of the screen to help you remember what it is while you play the level. So as we begin level 1, we can see the very first room that we have here. We will be facing an Algox Guard, an Algox Archer, and an Algox Priest. We have our mission objective over here on the right-hand side. It is to kill all enemies, and then we also want to protect as many city guards as possible. So these city guards aren't really going to be doing anything. They're just little NPC allies who sit here. They can tank some damage for us, but we also want to try to keep as many of them alive as possible. We can pick starting hexes for our characters, so you just select your character and right-click any of these glowing hexes, and that will be where they begin the level. And we have to figure out what exactly we are going to do. So we are in the card selection phase of round 1. Each of our characters has their set number of cards that they brought to the level. Banner Spear brought 10, Bone Shaper brought 12, and we have to pick 2 cards each on our characters to play before we can end selection and begin round 1. Now, when that happens, each of these monster groups, the guards, the archers, and the priests, have 8 different monster ability cards that the game can pick from. So it'll randomly choose one of those for them to play for the turn, and their turns will be something like move and attack you. So before we do end selection, we'll have to figure out what our cards are doing. Now, all of our cards have a bunch of symbols on them and can be a bit overwhelming. So if we just hover over a card and press B, we can pull up this glossary. So this very first symbol is attack. So Javelin is an attack for 3 at range of 3. And it will also generate the wind element, which we can use on our future turns. Or if we choose to play the bottom of Javelin, we have a move 1, so we can move 1 hex, and we can pull anything in range 3, 2 hexes towards us. Now, there are a whole bunch more icons for us to learn, but we can always press B while hovering over a card to pull up this glossary. So this card, Set for the Charge, it's got a lot of text on it, but also all these icons. So we have enemy, teleport, move, and damage. So whenever an enemy teleports or moves from a hex not adjacent to you to a hex next to you, that monster suffers 2 damage. Suffer damage is different from an attack. It is just, the monster just suffers the damage, you don't have to do anything else. Or on the bottom of the card, we have move 4. So why do these cards have tops and bottoms? Every card has 3 very important attributes: its bottom, its top, and its initiative. So Set for the Charge, we went over the actions, the bottom action and top action, and its initiative is 6. So when you pick your 2 cards, the one that you select first will be your leading initiative. That's why it has a 1 next to it, and then the other card will have a 2. Your 2 card, the initiative does not matter on it. It's insignificant unless there is a tie. But your card that has a 1, your leading initiative, chooses how fast or slow you will be going for the turn. So 6 is very, very, very fast. Once all of the ability cards have been decided, they will be placed in order with lower numbers going first. So right now, our Banner Spear would be going at 46 initiative, and our Bone Shaper would be going at 46 initiative, and our Banner Spear would be going at 6. Once we hit in selection and we see the monster cards, all of the monster cards also have an initiative on them. And of the 8 cards the monsters have, a couple of them sometimes are duplicated, but for the most part, they have 8 different initiatives. So they could go really fast or really slow, and you won't know until you have picked your cards and seen what the monsters will be doing for the turn. So we can figure out what's going to be happening for this turn now that everything has a card selected. The Banner Spear is going to be going very fast at 6, moving in and doing some range damage. The Archer will go at 31. it will move and also do some range damage. The Bone Shaper will go at 46 and move and do some ranged damage. The City Guard is standing still and doing nothing at 50 initiative. And then the Priests and Guards will both be going late, moving, and hitting. And because this Algox Guard is going late at 70, he's hitting extra hard. His base attack, if we click on him, if we hover over him and press B, we can see that his base attack, this is actually messed up. His attack and movement are switched. His base movement is 2 and his base attack is 3. The game is not released yet, so I'm sure they will get things like that fixed. But this 70 initiative card, he attacks extra hard. So he, instead of attacking for 3, which is his regular attack, he'll be attacking for 4. So the Banner Spear is first. We're going to move in. And let's just attack this archer, because archers hit really hard and they hit a lot. So we're not right next to him, but we can use Javelin, which is a ranged attack, and we could hit any of these enemies right now for 3. So we'll just select this archer, and we'll attack him for 3, but we can see we pull a -2. So on every single attack that you perform, it will pull from your attack modifier deck. All characters start and monsters have the exact same starting attack modifier deck. So we have a miss, 1 -2, 5 -1s, 6 zeros, 5 +1s, a +2, and a ×2, a crit. These will get better as you level up. You'll have different perks that you can select that will improve them. And then also achieving your battle goals. If you can get 3 checkmarks from battle goals, you'll get to select perks and do things like take out a -1 and replace it with a +1 to stack this deck in your favor. So a stronger, a higher level character will, on average, be dealing more damage from their attacks. So we attacked for 3 and only dealt 1 damage, unfortunately. Now, we end our turn. This monster is going to attack me. Now, I picked this armor on the Banner Spear, the leather armor. When a monster attacks you, you can give them disadvantage. That means that they will pull 2 attack modifiers instead of 1 and pick the worst one. So we'll go ahead and apply that leather armor to this attack. And we can see that they pull a 0 or the ×2, the crit. So instead of this attack for 3 critting for 6 damage, it'll take the 0 and only deal 3 to me. And then I also have a shield, which can block 1 damage, moving that 3 down to 2. So nice and tanky there. On the Bone Shaper, we have this ranged attack, Decaying Will, attack for 1, and poison an enemy. When an enemy is poisoned, all attacks against them get a extra damage. And then also, if they were next to one of my summons, do we not have the icon for summon in the glossary? Then it would deal +1 damage. It would be an attack for 2. So we'll just go ahead and attack this guy and mark him with the poison. It was just an attack for 1, and since we draw a -1, we're going to do no damage, but since he's poisoned, he will take extra damage in the future. And then the other action we selected here is a heal. So we have, on the bottom of this card, heal for 5, target 1 ally in range 3, and then we ourselves would suffer 2 damage, and we would set the dark element. Now, we don't want to do that, because our Banner Spear is not in range 3. We cannot do this transfer of essence. So instead, we can do a move for 2. So we don't want to be targeted back here. We don't actually really need to move. We could just skip this movement and end our action. But just as an example, we can do a move 2 as our bottom action instead of the regular action on the card. And you can always do an attack 2 as your regular action instead of what is listed on the card. Because the Bone Shaper is very squishy at just 6 HP versus the 8 on the Banner Spear, we're going to let this guard focus the Banner Spear, and it will do that because the Banner Spear is closer to him. So we can end our turn. The City Guard does nothing on its turn, but it taking a turn is very important for the monster focusing. Monsters will focus the thing that is closest to them. So if we see the Banner Spear is 2 hexes away from this priest, and the City Guard is 2 hexes away from this priest, but the priest chose to focus on the Banner Spear because she was faster in initiative order. That is how monsters will determine who they are attacking. First, they look who is closest to them. So this guard sees that he would have to move 2 hexes to hit the Bone Shaper, whereas he only needs to move 1 to hit the Banner Spear, meaning he will focus on the Banner Spear. But since it was a tie for the priest, priest, they look at initiative order to see who was going first, and then they will attack who is going first. So this did 3 damage to the Banner Spear. We'll go ahead and accept that 3 damage. And now this Algox Guard is going to hit us really hard for 4. He pulls a -1, and he does 3 damage, but that did get us quite low. We're going to go down to 2 health. So we can either choose to take this damage and go to 2 health, or we can lose one of our cards. We can burn any of the cards from our hand, which means we will not be able to play it for the rest of the scenario, but we would take no damage. So I could choose to burn Pincer Movement, or I can choose to burn 2 discarded cards. So the cards that I played for this round are now no longer in my hand. They are now in the discarded pile. So if you burn 2 cards from your discarded pile, then you're down to just 8 cards in your hand, which is not very many. Or 1 from your hand, then we would have 7 cards for the remainder of this rest cycle. For now, we'll just go ahead and choose to take this damage. Even though it's going to put us quite low, we can always lose cards to damage in the future. For the most part, you only want to lose a card to damage if you're going to be blocking a lot of damage. Now, I don't think it takes a genius to be able to tell that we're not in a very good position here. Our Banner Spear is very low with only 2 hit points remaining. Our Bone Shaper is pretty far from the action, and we're surrounded by monsters. So even on a lower difficulty, if you are not playing with good strategy, it's very, very, very easy for the monsters to punish you. So we're going to need to look very defensively on this turn. There are a couple options for defense. One, you can play a defensive card. Something like the bottom of Deflecting Maneuver, Shield 2, this shield only applies to ranged attacks. Well, we saw that both the Archer and the Priest do ranged attacks, so shielding against those would be pretty good, but it won't help us against this Algox Guard if he's going to hit us with a melee attack. So that's a possibility, but maybe not the best. Another way we can play defense is by playing offense. And so I actually think that right here, the top of Deflecting Maneuver will be really good for us. It's an attack for 2. I don't know why it's grayed out there. And then if we consume the wind element, which we can see over on the right, we do have air available for us. If we consume that air, we will get +1 damage and advantage. So advantage is the opposite of disadvantage. We draw 2 attack modifiers and pick the better one. So if we look at our modifier deck, we've got a bunch of 0s and +1s and +2s. So if we pick 2 of these, our odds of drawing a 0 or better are going to be quite good. Now, if we do draw a 0 or better on our attack for 3, because we're using the wind, we would be able to kill this Archer. So sometimes the best defense is a good offense. So let's go as fast as we can, and then we just want to move next to this Archer and attack him. Now, when we do move away, we'll be moving away from this Priest, meaning that if we're 3 range away and this guard is 2 range, he will focus the guard instead of us. Then same thing for this guard. If our Bone Shaper gets closer, the guard will focus on the Bone Shaper instead of the Banner Spear. So we'll just do something with some movement. We could play Tip of the Spear here for a move 4, or if we want to move, if we just want to move 2 hexes into the corner, we can do any of our cards. Like Unbreakable Wall here, we can just do it as a default move 2 action. We want to go as fast as we can. Hopefully we underspeed the monsters and they don't punish us. On the Bone Shaper, this is a summoning class, so we should have probably done a summon on turn 1. So let's go for that right now. We'll move up so that we can maybe tank the hit from this Algox Guard, but not so far that the Priest will focus on us. So if we move to this hex, the Priest should still focus the guard. This guard can hit our Bone Shaper, and then our Bone Shaper can summon. You don't really want to be tanking hits on the Bone Shaper, but because Banner Spear played so foolishly, we're going to have to make up for that a little bit by spreading damage around throughout the party. Now, we got relatively lucky here. The Archer or the Priest, either of them could have undersped our Banner Spear with their fastest cards, but that didn't happen, so we won't have to worry about it. The Priest is going to move and heal. Now, heal is not an attack, which means that he's just going to move towards the closest enemy. So this guy is going to move towards the city guard because that will be what is closest to him. And then he will just heal any monster. He will heal the monster that has suffered the most damage in range 3. And if nobody has suffered any damage, then he'll just heal himself. This Archer at 29 speed is going to move and attack for 2 with Immobilize. When you're immobilized, you cannot move after that. For 1 turn, and then the condition will wear off at the end of your turn. So for 1 turn, you would be immobilized. And this guard is actually going to be attacking at range. He'll be attacking for 3 at a range of 2. The guards do have 1 card where they act at range. Now, the item I have on my Bone Shaper here are the Boots of Speed. So after we lock in our cards for the round and we see what all of the monsters are doing, we can choose to increase or decrease our initiative by 10. So if I wanted to go faster than this priest, I could lower my initiative from 26 down to 16. In this case, we don't really need to do it, so we'll just skip them and save it for a better time, because once we use the item, we can't get it back until we long rest, which we'll talk about soon. So the Banner Spear, we're just going to move away. Either 1 or 2 hexes will work. I'm going to go right here, because if this archer survives the attack from us, he can only move 1 hex. And because he can only move 1 hex, any attack he does will be a ranged attack that he's performing while adjacent to us. And attacking something with range while you're next to them gives you disadvantage. So he would have to pick 2 attack modifiers and pick the worst one, increasing the odds that we would survive. We will get our deflecting maneuver. We will consume the air that we generated last turn, and so it will go away from the side here. And we can pick to attack this guy with advantage. So we draw 2 modifiers. We get a -1 and a +1, so he does go down. That works out well for us, and that'll end our turn. When the monster died, he dropped a loot bag, and there was already 1 loot bag in this scenario. So picking those up, we will get one of the items that was in the loot pool. Our Bone Shaper, with the Bottom of Malicious Conversion, would be a move for 3, or if we consume the leaf, it becomes a move for 5. This leaf is going to wear out after this turn anyway, so we might as well just pick it to move up as far as possible. Now we're going to move onto this difficult terrain. If you see the little tooltip here, it says it costs 2 move to move into it. So this is a move for 5, but we're only going to move 4 hexes because of the difficult terrain. We get next to this guy, and that means he's going to run away from us in order to get rid of his disadvantage, because he's using a ranged attack. So he's going to step 1 hex away, either up here or right here, and then target the Bone Shaper, because it's the enemy that's closest to him when he's determining his focus. We could also choose to summon our skeleton right here, and we'll go ahead and do that. We don't want the Bone Shaper to take a ton of damage herself, because summoning the skeleton is going to make us suffer too. So we're going to bring in a 3 hit point, 2 attack, 2 move skeleton, and your summons will always go before you in initiative order. So we can see the skeleton got popped right before the Bone Shaper up top, and every turn he's just going to act with the exact same AI that the monsters do, walk towards the closest thing and hit it with his basic attack. So hopefully this Algox Guard, who's attacking for 3 right here, hopefully he pulls a -1 or something better than that, and our skeleton will survive. If not, the skeleton tanks the damage for us so that Bone Shaper didn't have to. And our skeleton did survive, so now he's going to get to take a turn on this upcoming turn. Alright, so our strategy on turn 2 improved from turn 1. We're in a better position now with 1 monster dead. And right now, the Algox Priest would focus on our City Guard, which we would rather him hit the City Guard than us, as long as he doesn't kill him. And this Algox Guard will focus the Banner Spear. So our Banner Spear, we could play something like this regroup action. A heal for 2, range 2 with Regenerate. For Regenerate, you heal 1 at the start of each of your turns, but it gets removed if you take any damage. Given that there are still monsters in this room, it's possible we might take damage, so maybe it's better to play this Regenerate once we've killed everything. So we'll save that card maybe for next turn or the turn after. One other thing we can see is that we would much rather our summon be focused on the Bone Shaper than the Banner Spear, so let's have the Bone Shaper go first. Let's figure out the Bone Shaper's turn. We know that at the beginning of our turn, this summon is just going to act with monster AI. He's going to move towards the closest target and attack him for 2. So he'll move here and hit this guy. So we'll have that happen as fast as we can at 18 initiative, and then we still get to take our turn and perform both a bottom and a top. So I think a pretty decent top action here will be Eternal Torment. Curse a target in range 5, that's going to add an extra miss into their deck, and then we get to grant any summon adjacent to that target an attack +0 targeting them, so it'll use the monster's base attack of 2 and attack him for 2 and create Dark. Sounds pretty good to me. Now we know that this skeleton is going to move up. We know that we don't want to play our heal on Banner Spear yet, and a really good card we can play is Rallying Cry. So this is a Banner Spear formation. Formations are the Banner Spear's specialty, and they have special requirements. So this will give us an attack for 3 with Disarm. Disarm is a negative condition that will last 1 turn on a target, and they just cannot perform any attacks. So that will keep us safe. This is another way you can play defense, is by giving the monsters negative conditions so that they can't do something. Now, in order to meet the requirements for this formation, we need an ally standing in the blue hex, an enemy standing in the red hex, and the Banner Spear standing in a gray hex. And then this formation can be flipped and rotated and twisted and bopped and whatever you want to do to it, as long as we keep this kind of curved positioning of Banner Spear Monster Summon, or Banner Spear Monster Summon, or it could be like this. It doesn't matter how they're laid out, as long as we get this curve, then the formation would work. If our ally were standing in this hex, since it would be a straight line, the formation for Rallying Cry would not work, but we would be able to do the formation on Pincer Move instead, as we can see that just lays everything out in a straight line. So we'll want to play this Rallying Cry, but we would rather go faster than the monster. We don't want to play our fastest card of Regroup, so let's just play Combined Effort with Rallying Cry. Now, we can see this priest, he played the exact same card as last turn. So how did that happen? They're supposed to have 8 different ability cards, and when you draw one, you move on to the next. Well, first of all, Algok's priests do have a duplicate card. This 23 initiative, move, and heal a target. They have 2 of them in their deck, but also it has a shuffle symbol. So at the end of each round, any deck that drew a card with a shuffle symbol, that entire deck will be shuffled again. So after this round ends, there will be 8 ability cards the priests can pick from for the next turn. Whereas this guard, since he doesn't have a shuffle symbol, I don't know if they shuffled last turn or not, but I don't think he did. So I think he's going to go down to just 5 cards to pick from for the next turn, since he's played 3 cards with no shuffle symbols. So when we don't see the shuffle symbols, they're narrowing down their list of possibilities. We don't need to use the Boots of Speed here because we're already going nice and fast. Our skeleton is going to move in, take his turn before us, which is why he's focused before us in initiative order, and then we can take our turn. So let's go ahead and give this guy a curse. And if we look at their modifier deck, we can see that curse is in there now. Now, we also see that all of their cards have been shuffled. That is because any character or monster ability deck will shuffle after a turn ends in which they drew either their miss or their crit. Those have the shuffle symbols on them, but those are the only cards that will shuffle your deck. So you're always guaranteed to keep pulling attack modifiers and thinning out your deck until you either miss or crit. And then at the end of the round, it shuffles them. Not the end of the attacker's turn, but the end of the round. So you can both miss and crit in the same round if you're doing multiple attacks or if you're the monsters. The second half of our Eternal Torment here, we get to choose our summon and have him perform just a base attack into this guy. Now for our bottom action, we can move to, and we can move our summon if we would like to. We don't really want to move the summon because we want him to go for that formation attack. So maybe we'll just move to getting closer to this loot over here. We don't want to be next to the priest because we want the priest to be still attacking and focusing on this guard. And we'll just skip the move ability on our summon because we don't need to do that. Priest, unfortunately, he's going to heal this guy up because he is in range 3 and he has suffered some damage. But it's not the end of the world. Now the guard is going to go and focus our skeleton, and unfortunately he's going to kill him, which means we no longer have the conditions met for our formation. If we try to use the formation, we can see that it's highlighting the hex that our summon used to be in. So that's not good. But we did actually kind of come up with a plan around this. So combined effort, we get to move for 2, so we can move into this hex right here. And then we can grant an ally in range 2 a move for 2. And we can see that once we move the Bone Shaper into this hex right here, now we have met the conditions for our formation. Now, it's not letting me apply this attack because it needs to be rotated. We can press R and it will rotate it in the other direction. So we can see now we have our conditions met. We can attack this guy for 3 and disarm him. Now, he's already had his turn for this turn, but we're going to see he's going to get the little disarm over his head. So next turn, he cannot attack, no matter what he does. which is pretty good for us. And then we ended our turn on a money bag. That is one of the ways you can pick up a money bag, is ending your turn on it. We pick up the loot and it had gold in it. It could have had an herb or wood or metal or hide, and that's just determined by the loot deck that we saw before we started the level. Now, our position has improved from the beginning of last turn. This guy's disarmed, so we know he's not hurting us this round. The priest should be focusing this guard, so we don't have to worry about playing super defensively here, and we can go on offense instead. Now, one way we can look to do a lot of burst damage is by attacking with both our top and our bottom cards. So maybe the Bone Shaper here, for our top attack, our top action, we'll just do a default attack 2 into this guy, because we'll want to go as fast as we can. Fell Remedy sounds good to me. We'll want to do an attack into this guy as quickly as possible. And then if we look at this card, Command the Wretched, on the bottom, we see grant one ally an attack for 5. Now that's a lot of damage, and it's on a bottom action. Most of the time, generally, your bottom actions are going to be movement, and your top actions are going to be damage. But this card, we can see, has an X symbol on it in the bottom right-hand corner. That means it is a lost card. Once we play this card once in a scenario, we won't get it back until we play a new scenario. That makes it very powerful and strong, but it's a one-time use. Now, it's okay to play some lost cards. We start with 12 cards in our hand as Bone Shaper, which means that if we play 2 lost cards and go down to 10 cards, that will give us the same number as the Banner Spear has. So we'll go for that for this turn. We can command our ally City Guard to attack this priest, and we can use our top action to attack this guard. We know we want to save this heal to play for next round once all of the monsters are hopefully dead, and so we'll just play these 2 cards here. We got heal again on this priest, so we could use our Boots of Speed here. Let's go ahead and do that, because there's a chance that if we decrease our initiative down to 20, if we grant an attack for 5 into our ally, there's a chance that he could kill this priest, and then the priest wouldn't be able to heal up this guard, since he got that card again. So we'll grant our attack for 5, our ally pulls a +1 from his deck, and that will kill the priest. Boom, now we don't have to worry about him. For our top action, we could go for this heal. We do have the dark that we set last turn, so it would be a heal 2, target an ally in range 3, and then consume the dark to make it a heal 4. That would be a very nice amount of heal, but we do know we have that heal with Regenerate for the Banner Spear that she can use herself. So instead, let's just do a default attack for 2, because if we kill this guy, that would be a little bit better than healing an ally. And unfortunately, we don't pick up the kill. City Guard takes his turn where he does nothing. This Algox Guard cannot attack us because he's disarmed, and then now we can attack. So let's just do a default attack for 2, because we don't have the requirements for this formation. We would need an ally behind us, which nobody can stand there. So let's just do a default attack for 2. Hopefully we kill him, which we did. And then now we can move and pick up some of this loot. Now, we could end our turn on this loot pile and get it, but instead we're going to do something special for this next turn. So we only have 2 cards left on Banner Spear, and then we will be out of cards, so we'll have to figure out what is happening then. And then on Bone Shaper, since we start with 12, we've got a couple turns left. Banner Spear, we're going to start by healing ourselves and getting this Regenerate. That's going to heal 1 at the beginning of every turn, letting us get into the next room, or letting us take some time to heal up before we go to the next room. And then our bottom, we have Move 1 and Loot 1. So a loot ability allows you to pick up all loot piles that are in hexes in range. So this is a Loot 1, meaning we will loot every hex adjacent to us. So we will get both this loot bag and this one. So we'll just skip this movement so that we stand still, and then loot both of these treasure bags. And they each had 2 wood in them. So we got 4 wood, which is quite good. On the Bone Shaper, we'll just move towards this next room, and we can go ahead and move onto our money bag here so that we pick it up at the end of our turn. And let's just summon a skeleton for the next room. It's going to take us down to 2 health, but we're going to have the opportunity to heal up before we open this door. And we also do get an experience from it, which isn't something that we talked about yet. But this little XP number, your characters gain experience. You hit level 2 once you get 45 total experience point which most of your regular cards, or some of your regular cards, will give you 1. Most of your lost cards will give you either 1 or 2 experience, and then you also get a set amount of experience for completing a level, depending on what difficulty you were playing. We got 2 gold on the Bone Shaper, so probably not as good. And then now we are left with these resting options on the Banner Spear. So we have 2 types of rest, the long rest and the short rest. So all of our cards are in our discard pile right now, so we don't have anything in our hand to play. We can get them back by short resting. If we choose to short rest, it will happen in between the turns, and one of our cards from our discard pile is randomly going to be lost, and we cannot pick that card for the rest of the scenario anymore. If we long rest, then for our entire turn, we do nothing. At a 99 initiative, we will stand still and heal ourselves for 2 and refresh our items. So on turn 1, we used our leather armor. Why is that? Okay. We used our leather armor and our heater shield, and these items have like a flip symbol on them, meaning we will get them back if we do a long rest. And it would be very nice to have that defense from doing a long rest, and we get to heal ourselves for 2. But we will still have to lose 1 card, but on a long rest, because you're spending your turn to do the long rest, you get to pick which card you're going to lose. Now, Bone Shaper doesn't necessarily need to long rest here. We can still take our turn to play these cards, although we don't really have much that we're going to get out of them. So we could choose to long rest early if we wanted our characters to long rest at the same time. Any summon can move closer to the character that summoned them if there are no monsters for them to focus on, but given that he's right next to us, even if we confirm this movement, he's just not going to do anything since he's already right there. And we don't have any monsters that we can curse in range. We can't summon the skeleton because suffering 2 damage would kill us. Oh, I guess we can go ahead and bring in this Wraith, this Lost summon. So playing the Wraith will give us 2 experience. The card will last forever, but it is a lost card when the summon dies. And this is just a 1 health summon, but it has attack for 1 at range 3 every turn, and it has 2 shield. So it's possible that it can get attacked, and that attack just goes into the shield and doesn't kill it, even though it only has 1 health. And just ideally, this summon will get you a bunch of attacks out throughout the course of a scenario. So let's just go ahead and plop that down. At the very least, we get the 2 experience from it for playing it, and it'll set the dark element for us for the future. Then we kind of want to just be closer to this door, so we'll just end our movement right there. Banner Spear gets that heal 1 at the start of her turn for the regenerate. We can long rest here and pick a card to lose. Let's just drop Pincer movement. And now that card is in our lost pile, and we can't play it for the rest of the scenario. So we went from 10 cards now down to 9. If we look at the Bone Shaper, we played the Loss on Command the Wretched to go down to 11. We played this Angry Spirit summon, which is a lost summon, so we're down to 10 cards. And we have Life in Death, this skeleton summon, in our active pile. But this is not a lost summon. So if we want, we could choose to discard the Life in Death. The summon would go away. There we go. He evaporates into nothing. And now the card is just discarded, and we can get it back with a rest. So we can long rest here. We'll heal for 2. We will refresh our Boots of Speed, as they're grayed out right now, but they have the flip symbol on them. And then we will lose 1 more card. So that'll put us at 3 cards lost on Bone Shaper and 1 card lost on Banner Spear. And then in the meantime, Banner Spear can just move closer to this next room while the Bone Shaper long rests and gets that little bit of a heal. And then basically from this point, we would be ready to go into the next room. But opening doors is a very difficult part of this game, and that's where a lot of the fun lies. So I don't really want to spoil what's in this next room, but we can see that it's quite a big room. Oh, oops. It's quite a large room. There are going to be a bunch of monsters in there. We're not going to know what ability cards they're playing until we open the door. But as soon as we do open the door, it's going to be like the start of a new round where all of the monsters get an ability card, and we'll just have to figure out what's happening from there. And that is the basic gameplay loop. We start with a certain number of cards, depending on what character we're playing. We have to play 2 cards per turn until we don't have 2 cards in our hand anymore, at which case we have to rest. We will lose 1 card from our discard, either randomly by short resting, or we can pick the card by long resting, which will take a full turn to do. We lose 1 of those cards, we recover all of the rest of them, and then that cycle just repeats, but it means that every rest cycle is getting shorter and shorter and shorter as you have fewer and fewer cards. Then your really strong abilities, like the Lost on Unbreakable Wall here, this would give the Banner Spear a shield for the rest of the scenario, but we would have the penalty of reducing all of our ranged attack ranges by 1, and we have the penalty of losing this card, and we can't play it anymore, but we do get that persistent effect. So that's where a lot of the fun comes in. It comes from balancing, do I lose this card right now, or do I maybe save it for a couple more rest cycles in the future? Are we going to be able to win the scenario if I only have 5 turns of stamina left before I exhaust? Because if you ever get to the point where you only have 2 cards in your hand and your other 8 cards have all been lost, that will be your final turn of the scenario. If you do not win, then your character will be exhausted, and depending on the scenario objectives, it's possible your allies could still win. Like in this level, if our Banner Spear were to exhaust, but Bone Shaper were to kill all of the enemies, we would still be able to win this level. And I think that's going to be it for now. We didn't go through everything, but I think we hit enough of the basics to at least be able to understand a bit of what is going on. In the future, I am looking to make a video where I explain all 6 of the starting classes, and then there are a whole bunch of locked classes after that that you can still unlock. All of these characters can go up to level 9, getting to add a new ability card to their deck as they level up, which is very exciting. And then there is also the outpost phase that we can worry about, where we're building up the town of Frosthaven, unlocking new buildings that give us abilities and effects and new items that we can bring into the scenarios to make our characters stronger and progress and get that nice RPG feeling going on. But hopefully you enjoyed this. If you're watching it immediately as the video came out, then the Frosthaven digital demo is available on Steam. If it's not, maybe the game itself is out already, or you could always, if you have friends who would potentially want to play the board game in real life, the Frosthaven board game is very, very good. It is a bit on the expensive side, but it is a lot of fun. It's a very large commitment to decide to play with people, and there is also an official version of Frosthaven Enhanced on Tabletop Simulator if you have that. Have a good one.